We use a great deal of film in colour television, and the machine which we use to televise film is called a Telecine. Now, there are two basically different types of Telecine machine. One is really a colour television camera looking at a normal type cinematograph film projector in which the film runs through intermittently, just as in the cinema. But the type which by and large we use for transmitting commercials is a type called a flying spot Telecine. This is based on a principle which was used by Baird way back in 1926 or so for producing television pictures. And in this kind of Telecine machine, the film moves through the Telecine continuously, and the light source is not a lamp, but a television tube. And the name flying spot, of course, comes from the fact that a tiny spot of light is moving across the screen at about the speed of a Concorde. Here's a picture of a flying spot Telecine. The control desk is very neatly laid out away from the main film transport mechanism, and there are a number of quite sophisticated controls available to us if we wish to use them. Now, in some ways, there are too many controls available to us when we're trying to televise film. We can do most of the things which a film laboratory can do. That's to say, we can imitate electronically most of the chemistry of film printing and film developing. Whether we need to use these controls or not depends very much on the quality of the film which we receive. The conditions of television viewing and the type of equipment which we use means that we are in something like twice as critical of film grading tolerances on television as we are in a dark cinema. Now, here's a second picture of an operator adjusting the controls to change, in effect, the film grading for television, because the film which he received wasn't really graded precisely enough. I'll come back to this business of film grading in a moment, because it really is rather important to us, particularly when we're transmitting commercials which have been made by a number of different film crews, perhaps on different film stocks, perhaps processed in different laboratories, certainly approved by different directors under different conditions. All right, before we get to that, let us delve a little into the technicalities of transmitting film. I'd like to show you a block schematic of what happens in the studio when we lace a film into a Telecine machine. The Telecine machine produces from the colour film 3 colour television signals plus a soundtrack, of course, as usual. It produces a red, green and blue signal from the film, and these 3 signals, after going through what I'll call for the moment a black box, where various kinds of electronic reprocessing has to take place. The signals have to be sharpened, various deficiencies in the Telecine have to be ironed out, and so on. These 3 signals, after their electronic processing, go into a PAL coder, where the signals are scrambled so that they become a normal type PAL coded colour television signal and can be passed into the studio mixer just as if they were pictures coming from a studio camera. Now, colour television by itself is very good. Colour film by itself in the cinema is also undoubtedly very good. But the fact remains that many films which look good in the cinema are pretty abysmal when they're televised. There are several reasons for this. There are the viewing conditions, which are different in television. There's the fact that we can't reproduce as big a contrast range in people's homes as we can reproduce in the cinema. And thirdly, there's the fact that the dynamic range of colours which the film can handle is very different from the gamut of colours which television can handle. I can best illustrate this, I think, by showing you a colour bar signal which in fact is not being produced electronically, it's being produced on film by my friends at Technicolor. Now, in film we produce colour by subtracting away from white light those colours which we don't need. And if we don't have very much dye in the film, that's to say, if we allow a lot of light through the film, then we can't produce very vivid colours. Now, if we increase the amount of dye in the film, as in this next slide, the colours look much more vivid to you. here comes the rub. We can only on film produce vivid colours, highly saturated colours, at low brightnesses, at low luminances. Exactly the converse is true with colour television. With our electronic colours, we produce our most vivid colours when they are very bright. So, if we wish to match film into our electronic studio pictures, we must remember that some colours work well on the electronic cameras, some colours work well on film. And if we wish any particular costume or splash of colour or advertising pack to carry smoothly through from the film to the electronic camera transition, we need to pitch the colours appropriately. Now here's an operator adjusting one of the many electronic controls available to us. This one is called Tariff. Tariff. It's an acronym for Tony's apparatus for the reconstitution of indifferent film. In effect, it enables us to take some indifferently manufactured or indifferently processed film and to change the colour balance both in the highlights and in the shadows as well as in the mid-greys. This is very useful to us if we have to use old film or if we have to use film which hasn't been colour matched into our studio. Let's illustrate the performance of these controls by putting up a slide of a test pattern, a very familiar test pattern. You've seen it often by now, of course. And we'll alter the tariff controls so that all the colours in the picture, including Anne's face, changes hue so that we go around the colours of the spectrum. And I think you'll be able to see the very wide range of distortion, if you like, or pre-correction, depending on your point of view, which we're able to put in. Now, there's another form of correction which we can use, which we call masking. There are various kinds of masking, linear masking, logarithmic masking, but basically we can use them to do the same thing. We can use them to correct for errors in the film, providing these errors are consistent, let's say providing we know the design parameters of the film. We can use them to correct for certain analysis errors in the Telecine. The general effect on a picture is to increase the saturation of the pictures, to increase the vividness of the colours. Now, the picture you've been looking at already has the masking in. We'll take the masking out and put it back again once or twice so that you can watch the effect. You'll notice the effect is most marked on the strong colour.